podcast. This is a YouTube special where we're going to be looking back to today's Euro 2020/21 action. The games today were Hungary against Portugal and just Germany against France, which has just finished. Joining me is HG. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It was kind of weird to only have two games to watch today. I took the time to go to the swimming pool with my wife and daughter, enjoy the summer that we're getting here. It was like 28 degrees, and I don't know if I prefer it to only have two, but it made a nice change. So life is good. What's it like being back in the UK?
It's good. I'm getting it. It's going to get a really big echo.
Okay.
So I might unplug my earphones if that improves it at all. It's good to be back in the UK. Spending time with my dad here. Really big echo. Okay. So I might unplug my earphones if that improves. Yeah, the echo's still going. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I hear it now. Yeah.
Back in the UK. Spending time with my dad here. I'll plug in the earphones then. All right, it's going to be fun.
It's that UK internet.
Yeah, I might refresh. Would that help?
Yeah, you can do that, and I'll just keep going for a second.
You can go. Yeah, sorry guys, a great start.
So yeah, it's as I said, it's been a weird day today with only two games, but it's fun. I mean, obviously the first game today was the Hungary-Portugal game. We're in our own little Patreon chat group that we have. We've got a little kind of prediction show competition that we have going on, and in our little prediction group, lots of people went for a 3-0 win to Portugal. So it was I think a lot of us were quite happy to see that result come through. But with what is it, 0-0 with 10 minutes to go, I think we were all kind of thinking that maybe Hungary would get something from the game. But I thought it was quite an interesting game, the Hungary-Portugal one, because obviously Portugal dominated the ball. They had lots of chances in the first half. I know that obviously Ronaldo missed that really easy chance kind of halfway through the first half, but in the end, Portugal got the job done. And it's weird because they're calling this the group of death. But when you have three teams that can qualify from any group, I don't really know why it's called the group of death. They could all easily qualify and make life difficult for other teams later on in the competition. And if you go back to the last Euros, Portugal were one of the teams that finished third in their group, sneaked through into the last 16 and went on to win it all. So
it's three draws as well. They didn't even win a game in the group.
Yeah,
so it's the group of life.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like to be eliminated in the group stage is just actually quite difficult to do. But if you win one game, you've got a really good chance of doing it. So obviously Portugal managed that today, and Hungary, you guessed, are the easiest game in the group. So they're obviously happy with their work. We have a comment here from Misha Kvasalia. I'm sorry if I get your name wrong, Misha, but Hungary were hungry, but they got eaten by Ronaldo. That's true. It is very true. I love, if you haven't seen it, the video, the small video of Ronaldo at yesterday's press conference when he sat down at the table and there were two bottles of Coke in front of him, and it was like you'd spat on his mother's grave. I mean, it was just like, what is this awful stuff? Get it away from me.
The look on his face of pure disgust to a sponsor that's probably given him a few million through the years was just brilliant. That was pure Ronaldo. But the goals, were they decent though? Like I said, I was working when that game was on, but 3-0 seems quite comprehensive. A full stadium as well. Was it a good encounter?
It was quite a decent game. Like, I mean, obviously Hungary were playing on the counter a lot. I think the Hungarian number 20, they have three players called Salai, but this one doesn't have a Z in his name. I thought he was quite good up front, making life difficult. And but yeah, it was a weird one. I actually had a friend here from Vienna who went to Budapest for the game and was sending pictures of a full stadium and saying how great it was to be there. But it's a bit awkward given that Hungary's record when it comes to COVID and how many deaths they've had isn't great. So it's great for us to sit at home and watch it, but I imagine it would have been a bit nervy being there. As for the goals, the first one was a deflection. where the keeper had no chance. The second one was a penalty, and I think the penalty was given less than a minute after the first one went in. And the last one, right at the end, it was actually a really good team goal. But yeah, it was right at the end of the game, and obviously by that point, Hungary had their heads were down. Yeah, they just they'd given everything for so long, and then to have a deflection be the thing that deflated them was probably quite hard to take. But now to have they've got two difficult games left. Their goal difference is -3. You'd have to think they're out of it. Even if they do win one of their next two, their goal difference might kill them. It's it's very tough for Hungary. I guess it was the group of death for them, but not for the three big teams.
So do you think that we've seen, like, from the two games we've seen tonight, do you think we've seen one of the winners, eventual winners of Euro 2020 playing today?
I think. You can't look at France and not think they have a chance. The first 11 they played today, not only is it full of world-class players, it's also a system that they seem to know really well and can play really well in. Having Benzema back up top does give them a little bit extra. The kind of battering ram. I mean, he's better than that, but there's someone who's got a bit more presence up front. Maybe if it was Mbappe and Griezmann or Giroud with them, they wouldn't be quite as dangerous. But yeah, you can't look at that French side and think that they don't have a chance. The Germans are probably missing a striker. I'm not a big fan of the 3-4-3 they played today. I think it might make Gosens look pretty good at left back, but pushing Kimmich out to the right hand side seems to negate his influence in the game, and I'm not a massive fan of that. But they're looking for, I think, the right system and the right blend, and to be doing that in the group stages is already too late as far as I'm concerned. But you could see all three of the big teams today being in the semi-finals just because of the pedigree they have, and so. But I think if you look at it, France and probably Italy are the two teams that have impressed me so far, just because their system seems to be set and the players seem to know what they're doing.
Well, let's move on to that second game. I realised what it was, by the way, that was the echo. I just had the video open on YouTube and when I tweeted it. So, schoolboy errors, but I'm back, guys. So what do you want? I actually saw the Germany-France game, well, most of it. We were watching it sort of while we were setting up tonight. And it's just great to watch football here. Like, to hear Ali McCoist was commentating, to hear his voice commentating, and see Roy Keane and Patrick Vieira in the studio. But back to McCoist, he said the opening exchanges were scrappy. Do you think it was a scrappy first half? I thought it was. There were moments of brilliance for me. Like, Pogba's passing was superb. It was a bit scrappy, and there were misplaced passes, overhit passes. But what do you make of the opening exchanges of tonight's game?
I don't think I'd ever use the word scrappy for the two teams that have the quality of players that those two do. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't, like you're watching the 7-1 against Brazil. Sorry, Brendan. But it's, I don't think I could call it scrappy. As you said, there were moments of sheer quality. I think both sides were kind of trying to feel their way into the game. The Germans looked half decent, I think, early on. But it was, I think that goal, like I had Germany to win the game 1-0. And if anyone from the Patreon group is watching, since Germany scored the only goal of the game, I think I should get the points. But yeah, I know it does. It's a shame though. But it's difficult. I don't think I would call it scrappy. Like, it could have been one of those games where both teams were thinking that we just want to get out with this without losing. And I think today both sides actually had a bit of a go, and that might have been Germany's downfall a little bit. They were quite gung-ho going forward. Gundogan and Toni Kroos, they're not great tacklers, so they were clearly intending on having the ball and keeping the ball and using it wisely. But I think they probably left a bit too much space at the back for Mbappe and the others to take advantage. But yeah, if that's a scrappy game, then I need to be living in Ali McCoist's world more often, because I thought it was pretty good.
Cool, yeah, no, it was enjoyable both sides. Do you blame Hummels? I guess because he did look quite flat-footed, but for me, that goal was all about Pogba's pass. It was almost like a golf hit. It was outside of the boot and just bounced along. it was just perfect for Hernandez to whip it in. And we saw an own goal, very similar in a previous game this week, which hopefully you'll remind me of, where he whacks it in and it hits the defender and goes, it was, who scored that own goal? Help me out here.
That was in the first game. That was the Turkish defender who got hit by the ball and it kind of deflected in. No, we know what Pogba can do. I suppose we should be happy as Spurs fans that he doesn't do it more often for Man United. But he's clearly a quality player. And I think, weirdly enough, if you surround him with quality players, he will look better. And maybe that's been Manchester United's downfall. When you're playing him next to McTominay and Fred, perhaps that maybe that is the issue. Because I think Pogba's got better since Bruno Fernandes joined the club. And so, maybe there is something to that. That Juventus side that Pogba was part of was obviously full of, world-class players too. So, it was a tough goal to see Germany concede. Also quite funny because, none of us have really any love for Germany. Yeah. But, like Germany-France is almost like, Chelsea versus Arsenal. I don't think I want either side to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want them both to lose. Lots of injuries.
Yeah. And we have a comment here from Stuart Such. France look great and Mbappe's pace is unbelievable. How does Sissoko get into the squad? Sissoko, he's the glue that keeps everyone together, right? Isn't that what we saw in the documentary when Mourinho found out that Sissoko was the main man in the dressing room and he famously swore in response?
In Portuguese. I can say it in Portuguese. He said, foda. I want to see if the subtitles are coming out. I want to test how far we can go with swear words on the subtitles on Facebook. So we'll carry on. So,
it's Sissoko. He may only be there as a cheerleader. And when you've got 26 people in the squad this time, he doesn't even have to be in the 23 that can be named for the game. So, he's almost like the perfect cheerleader right now. We should send him some red, white, and blue pom-poms and make him a dance routine to the French national anthem. But unless they might want to use him in the final game of the group when they've already qualified, I'm not sure he's going to get many minutes. If he is the glue, then every international team does need that. So maybe that is the reason.
Well, maybe it's similar to your point about Pogba, that you place Sissoko around better players, and as a result, he improves himself because he is among a better midfield than he has at Spurs. So I'm sure for Sissoko.
That would keep Kohler happy because we could just blame Winks for everything. Like, why is Sissoko bad? Winks. It's that simple.
One thing I wanted to bring up from this game as well, a couple of things. Firstly, did you see the parachutist get caught in the wires?
I didn't see him get caught in the wires. I saw him come to the ground as if he'd never done it before.
Yeah.
No, really?
He got caught in the spider cam, apparently. So he's flying down. I don't know what he was delivering, like if it was the match ball or whatever. They'd given up on the little car and they got some guy to fly it in. But it looked like, and there was debris falling and it almost hit. They chomped in the dugout. There were no injuries or anything like that, but it was just a bit of a random fall from the sky. And speaking of injuries, there was that incident where I can't remember who the German defender was, but it was a French defender. It was Pavard, wasn't it?
Pavard,
and he got a clouting from, was it Kimmich? Oh, no, it wasn't Kimmich. It was another. That looked dodgy. And we saw with Eriksen the other day that head injuries and that kind of, obviously Eriksen's wasn't a head injury, but serious injuries, they need more attention. And he came pretty much straight back on. He took a big blow. He didn't know the player was coming in. To me, that warranted a one of those substitutions that they give extra for head injuries.
Yeah, and this is it. And there's no reason to take a chance. Like, I understand that if the player wants to play on, then okay. Like, I mean, that he's probably going to want to play on. But it was a massive crash. He fell to the ground as if he'd been knocked, somewhat unconscious. It was a really heavy challenge. You'd like to think that at some point someone says, no, we're not taking the risk, because no one wants to see players get that injured. The game is so much faster than it used to be. Players are, they're fit, so they're running full speed for 90 minutes. They're Okay, maybe not if they're English, but most players seem to be quite fit. And yeah, you want to see players looked after because sometimes maybe you can't trust them to make the best decisions. I don't know what it is with Germany and France, but German players cracking French players in the head seems to be a running theme. If you remember the 1982 World Cup,
Yeah,
but
the goalie. Well, I don't remember it. I was
yeah.
born in '82, but I saw the footage. The goalie just clouted. It wasn't Karamba. My initial reaction was it was Karamba. Who was the player?
Oh, in '82, I think the French player was called Battiston, but yeah,
Batista.
it was. Oh yeah, sorry, there's my GCSE French coming in. But yeah, I don't know. It felt reckless. Like in today's game, it's probably reckless to what Gosens did. But you know, when we played or when football was real football before Sky took over, that would have been just a challenge for the ball, a 50-50, and you went for it. Yeah, like it's an odd one, but like I don't mind seeing challenges like that. But I do think that when someone gets clattered like that in the head, then someone should be saying, "No, we're not taking the risk." There's no need to.
It looked a big clash. It wasn't bone on bone, but it was a big blow to the side of the head. And maybe Leon or Paul, people that understand more about the physical elements of human contact, might be able to say he could have carried on. Any more comments there, HG, before we move on to Spurs?
There is this comment just came through. It made me smile. Here we go.
Yeah, we are waiting for him, aren't we? God.
Yeah, we are still waiting. That would have been quite the entrance. I think if Levy sees this comment, this may well be how it works. He's going to pick a game like the Italy game tomorrow night in Rome, and at halftime, Fonseca's going to drop into his old stadium and introduce himself as the new Spurs manager. It would be something special. But yeah, that definitely made me laugh, AJ. Thank you for that one.
A couple of people saying that the parachutist was a Greenpeace protester, which is new for me. I thought they kept it to the sea, but now they're coming from the air. They're coming everywhere, each angle. But it did look. It could have been a lot worse. So I'm glad to know it wasn't choreographed and wasn't planned. It looked dodgy.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, I mean, it would have been dark almost certainly when he landed at half time. Like, I mean, I know that
it was at the start. I think was it at half time?
Oh, yeah. I only saw the replay at half time. I don't know when it happened, so it might have been before the game. I was watching on Dutch TV, and that's when they showed it. But yeah, I just yeah, the stadium. If you've been to Munich, the stadium is on the outskirts. It really is kind of like by the edge of the M25 almost. And so yeah, if you get it wrong, there's only concrete to hit. But yeah, you don't really want to see that. Like, I understand protesting, but there has to be a better way or other ways of doing it. Even if it's just outside the stadium, I don't know what, but yeah, like it's obviously important what Greenpeace do. But yeah, like if something like that happens where you break things or where someone can hurt themselves, yeah, like you're not doing any good to your cause.
Just one more point on the game. There were a couple of disallowed goals. The first one I saw, the second one was towards the end when we were setting up here. It was beautiful from Mbappe, and again the pass from Pogba. It was a beautiful pass. He was offside in the end, but it was just beautiful. It's just the way it was. He just sort of waited, and then bang, and that's something that very few players can do. That goal, but didn't count because it was offside.
Yeah, I think there are just some players who look like they were born with the football at their feet, and Pogba is like that. Like, he obviously he's 6'3", he's a big guy, but he never looks like he's really out of control. He seems to stride across the pitch. Like, I mean, there's the guy at Palace who does the same thing, like easy. Like, he does make it look easy. It just seems normal. There are I feel like I said this on last night's pod. You get people who look like footballers and people who look like athletes. And Pogba is clearly a footballer first, and it's yeah. I mean, as a football fan, I love watching him. But as an England fan, I don't want France to win because they won the World Cup. Like, spread the love a little bit. Like, if you believe in spreading the love, that means we have a chance. Surely,
like Spain 10 years ago, just stop winning. Just give someone else a chance. Come on, guys. Yeah. I have a few more comments I've seen popping up there, mate. If you want to. Any pick catch your eye?
Okay, here we go. There's this one. It says the tackle by Hummels against Mbappe in the box made up for the own goal. Because it was an incredible tackle. He almost went through Mbappe to get to the ball. I've seen. I mean, I think his foot actually went between Mbappe's legs.
Yeah,
It was one of those ones.
Isn't that where it's borderline? Like, just because you win the ball doesn't mean it's not a foul. Like, you come in from behind through the legs, that's a risk, surely. And I thought he was quite lucky not to. If it went to VAR, it could have gone either way.
I think it's one of those ones that, what happens to the ball when you touch it, right? Like if you divert the ball away from the player, then I would say it's okay. But if you get to the ball but move it in the same direction that it's traveling, then what have you done apart from take the player out? Really, you've not changed much. But yeah, there's clear. I mean, obviously both goals were offside tonight, but it made sense, I think, for if UEFA got involved in trying to rig things, that you want the game to stay close. And to be fair, Germany did play quite well. They just don't have they don't have the fox in the box. They don't have anything that really makes a defense worry. They don't have a number 9. Like Werner came on.
So they need Robbie Fowler. I hear fox in the box. I think Robbie Fowler. So.
Yeah, I think they just need someone who they have players who can put the ball in the net, but none of them really want to play centrally. Like Havertz is a number 10. Thomas Muller is more of a number 10. And who else was started for them today? I forget. Gnabry. Yeah, he likes to play wide. So it did seem a bit. They are looking for a main man. Like Bayern have Lewandowski, and Dortmund have Haaland. So their big club teams have foreigners, but the ones they do like to kind of move wide, and it maybe unbalances things a little. Germany weirdly seem to be very much like France in the fact that their strength is down the middle of the pitch. So maybe Germany need to play a little bit more like France and kind of flood the middle and hope that something will come off. I don't know. I don't like playing games without a main striker because it does feel like you don't really know where you're going to go with the ball. You need to have players who can shoot from distance, and Germany didn't really try that tonight either. So it's a problem that they need to figure out. But again, if they beat Hungary, they'll probably make it through to the next stage anyway. And they only lost to France by 1. And I do think that's going to matter. Like goal difference is going to be the thing that keeps these third place teams in it. So if anyone
who could spank Hungary the hardest, basically.
Yeah, but you look at Turkey's situation, because they lost the first game 3-0. They're already kind of behind the 8 ball. They have to win a game pretty convincingly now, or win both their games convincingly to make it. Because if they end up with a goal difference of -3, they could win the next one by a goal and then lose the following one by a goal. I don't think that would be enough for them. So it's goal difference is going to be a big thing in this tournament. So for the teams like Hungary and Turkey who have lost pretty convincingly, it's not looking good. I mean, Turkey at least have an easier group to deal with playing. They've got Wales and Switzerland next. So, but yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to be knocked out. You have to lose convincingly to be knocked out.
I'm just looking at the comments. There's one from Donny Consta. Thanks for the comment, Donny. Just asking about the new format from the Cheese Room. If we are going solely YouTube streams or social streams and not podcasts, we're doing both. To be honest, this is much easier, where we just sit here and chat crap in front of the camera. But we will be continuing with the podcast as well. We do have some great features lined up during the summer. And obviously, the Spurs season will kick off very soon as well. So we will be podcasting as well.
Tomorrow, the fixtures come out.
So I'm not about fixtures, really. Are you? I don't know.
I always look to see which game is close to my birthday. I don't know why that matters to me, but my birthday is pretty much at the start of the season, so it'll be the first or second game this time around. But I don't know. I am interested. You do look at it and think, okay, well, that's a tough period. You get Arsenal, Chelsea, and Man United 3 weeks in a row. But are we going to start the season at home? Because we don't really often seem to.
That away at Newcastle.
Yeah, there you go. So Newcastle away will be the bet, I'm sure. But um, I want to know when we play Brentford, because I think
Yeah,
that means a lot for both of us,
yeah,
for various reasons. And yeah, I don't know. Like I guess that living abroad, like we both do, like I can go over for a short break if needed. So I will be instantly looking at my half-term timetable, my Christmas timetable, see what games are on,
mm,
and maybe hope to get a ticket that way. But yeah, it does kind of mean that the new season is starting now. Like it's the first part of the new year, and yeah, for a lot of people it means a lot. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that tomorrow, and hopefully maybe the announcement of a new manager too. Who knows?
yeah, yeah. In saying that, actually, I'm going to completely contradict what I said. It's like I want to see what games happen whilst I'm still here that I might actually be able to get to. So I am actually looking forward to the fixture list coming up. So let's move on to Spurs then. Fonseca is the incoming manager. I think that's pretty clear with what we've seen. From my end, I'll just give, because I think you've spoken about this already with Cora, if not yesterday, then previously.
Yeah.
I was underwhelmed, as everyone was probably. It just came out of nowhere. But you have to do your due diligence. You have to do your research. You have to look into them. You sort of look where Roma finished and think, well, that isn't great. But then you look at the injuries they've had in the second half of the season. I did watch Alistair Gold's video about him, and he said he was charismatic about 15 times. So, all right, Alistair, get a room. But Alistair Gold seems to like him a lot. He is charismatic apparently, but he's a player's coach. I think that's one of the things that's come out from that research into Fonseca, is that players really do play for him. They really care about him, and I think after Jose, that's kind of what we want. I think both you and I wanted Conte big time because he's blockbuster, because he's a current winner. But he also just looks like the modern day Jose as well. And I think maybe we did need to switch from that. I don't agree with the whole he's too hard for us, but I do still think when you've gone through almost 2 years of Mourinho and the bashing of the confidence that our players have had, that a different approach is probably the best thing right now.
Like, if he has a plan, I'm in. He's already better than Mourinho. Like I see that Stuart says that, hopefully he'll be announced before the first game. Yeah, don't put any money on that, Stuart. You just never know. But yeah, like Fonseca, it's going to be interesting because like he does seem to have switched to a 3-4-3 system. That might suit the players that Spurs have, because we know Davies can play as a centre back, meaning that Sessegnon and Reguilon would be the options as the wing backs. We do look to be signing new players. Obviously, we've seen it rumoured that we're going to be after a couple of centre backs over the summer to maybe help play that system. So, yeah, like I'm somewhat optimistic. Another comment here from Lucas talking about he's not sure that Fonseca will take us up to the next level. Right now, we're at Conference League level, Lucas. So if he takes us up to the Europa League, that would be something. If he gets us into the Champions League, that's where we want to be as a club, and also obviously as fans. So, he's not going to have it easy, because we're in a tough league, and there are lots of teams that even if they don't have the revenue that Spurs do, like Leicester, are using the revenue wisely, and they're creating a really good side. So let's hope that Spurs start to do that. I saw that we were, linked, or speculation that we were going to be linked with another couple of Italians today. The two guys at Sassuolo, that's Manuel Locatelli and Domenico Berardi. I would love to see both of those, because I think there are areas that we could improve in. Locatelli seems to be very much the kind of English box-to-box midfielder. Like, he can do a bit of everything. He's quite young, maybe 23, 24. That would be a great signing for Spurs, because if you're playing for Italy in a Euros, then you're obviously not a bad player. And Berardi is that very kind of traditional, we see now, the left-footed right winger who likes to cut in and shoot and score. And we've got Lamela. We had Bale last season who did that to some extent in the games that they played. Lucas might be on his way out. He's been linked to various teams in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I don't know, but I think that if Paratici, obviously being Italian, has those contacts, and I mean, the link I saw today, I think, came from Gazzetta dello Sport, the Italian newspaper, and I think it was translated as Paratici has the inside track on trying to sign Locatelli, because he does seem to be wanted by a lot of clubs right now,
Okay.
not just the big ones in Italy, but also the big ones here in England. Yeah, like if he decides to choose Spurs, then that would be a massive coup. I always thought that Spurs didn't do massive coups. We went and got Dombele, which at the time really felt like one. So I do think it's possible, but a lot of it will be, the manager selling, whatever the project is, and the players wanting to dedicate 2-3 seasons towards it, and obviously the money that they would get for doing so. But yeah, it is good to start to seeing rumours about Spurs getting players rather than Spurs being ridiculed for trying to sign and failing to sign managers.
I'm optimistic, I think, for this season, and that's something that we all want. I think maybe it comes every season. We get optimistic, we get built up, but in Levy's defence, he's kind of done what we've asked him to do. He's stepped back. He's like, all right, I have made mistakes when it comes to footballing decisions. Bosh, here's your guy. There will still be financial restraints. We aren't Man City or Chelsea, but I think it was a bold move from Levy to admit his mistakes. Maybe not verbally, but in his actions, and that's encouraging for me. There's a comment there you just put up.
Sell players first. Yeah, I mean, obviously we do need to do that. We won't really be buying new people unless we can get them out. I saw Sissoko got linked to Napoli. Even if it was only on loan, that would be us doing that too. But it's going to be an interesting summer. I mean, like we all know that things needed to change. We all knew that we wanted kind of maybe Hitchin was to blame. It appears as if Hitchin now will be reporting to Paratici. So perhaps that's he's not been demoted per se by title, but he's no longer in charge of things. He can maybe he's a much better scout than a negotiator or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that, but someone with the contact book that Paratici seems to have would come in handy, because, I mean, when we first tried the director of football method back in, was it 2004 with Arneson, that was Arneson's thing too. He had links to a lot of the big leagues, a lot of the big clubs, and although he didn't bring in too many superstars in his 9 months at the club, he did find a couple that helped us grow and to become the Europa League team that we did become, because again, 10, 15 years ago, we were dreaming of Europe. So I don't want to harp back to that, but it's a case of, right, it did work once. If you get someone in who knows what they're doing, who has just, better contacts, it is all about contacts, really. Like if you have good contacts with agents, with clubs, with players, people know that you can be trusted. That's another thing that maybe Levy has lost around Europe and in the Premier League. Levy is still going to be signing the checks, but I think for Levy, if he's paying this guy, a few million a year, I don't know what it would be, but it's worth it, because the heat would be taken off Levy, and I suspect, as someone who appears to be quite private, that's what he wants. He doesn't like the attention being on him. He wants it to be somewhere else, and if it's Hitchin or Paratici or the players, then he's happy.
Yeah, I saw the video message you put out recently when Paratici signed up, and it was regular kind of stuff from him. But yeah, it's all positive. So let's focus on the positives. And we got, like you said, linked with so many players. The outgoings are just as important as incomings this summer, and it is good. I like the fact that they've made it very clear. Certain players have been told, find another club. Paratici is starting 1st of July. He's going to be on to those players' agents saying, well, you found anywhere? If not, I'm going to help you. I'm going to find Milan for Danny Rose, although that's on now. But you know what I mean? Like he's there to assist in that, because he has that broad contacts across the European leagues as well.
And this is it. Like, people talk about, maybe getting the players that the manager wants, which is obviously important for that to happen. But I suspect that Levy wants to go back to kind of, the method that we had, which was to sign younger players, players that would have resale value if they don't work out, players that maybe haven't been proven, that don't cost a fortune, because, the club is more likely to succeed if they buy two £30 million players than one 60 million, if only that you don't maybe trust the fact that the 60 million one might get it right. We did see in the past, we bought a lot of players at the end of the 2000s, and some worked out and a lot of them didn't. But because we were able to sift and find out which one stuck, it never really hurt us. We were buying these championship players for 2 or 3 million at the time. And if they worked out, then great, we'd make a fortune. And if they didn't, then we would usually sell them on for similar, if not a little bit more, because of the extra money in the game at the time. I think that if Levy has said to Parachutist, right, your remit is to find players under the age of 27, right? And that we want to be a club that keeps players who play a lot and moves the ones on that maybe don't play so much for whatever reason. That way, you're almost guaranteeing yourself some change every year. That might make sense. I read something today that Bergwijn is considered to be a massive part of Spurs' future. There are plenty of Spurs fans who think that would be a terrible decision because they haven't seen much from him. He's only scored, 1 or 2 goals last season. I love Bergwijn as a player. So I want to see him come through and play regularly for Spurs and to be the player that I think he is. It's just about getting the squad right. Because if you do have I said this many times, if you have a younger squad, they can grow together. They can become something together. You're not kind of mixing and matching. You're just saying, right, off you go. Let's see what you've got. And if it works, then great. Obviously, that's great for Spurs. And if it doesn't, then hopefully they won't be on 150 grand a week's wages that you then struggle to shift. Like you, I want to be positive.
Yeah, and on Fonseca himself, one thing I asked you guys yesterday, but I think the stream had finished by the time the question came through. Fonseca doesn't have his backroom staff with this move. He's having to find a completely new backroom staff, including a new number 2. And sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes the head coach is competent enough that he will be able to select who he works with and they'll gel. But for me, it was kind of like, why does this have to happen? Why can he not just come with his established backroom staff, with his number 2, who's gone on to manage his own career now, to be a career as a manager? It just was. I'm a bit concerned about this change in backroom staff and the fact that the club is going to help him find a more defensive number 2 on the pretense that Fonseca doesn't plan a defense very well. He's very good at attacking going forward, but the defense, certainly defending in the Premier League, will dictate who is our number 2. I just found that a bit odd. I kind of want a manager that knows how to do everything. What was your take on that?
Well, the irony of it is that he was a defender himself. So you'd think as a central defender, but you say that Pochettino was also a central defender, but the way he defended was by attacking and by pushing up high and really trying to force the opponent into mistakes. Half the reason why Jan and Toby look so good is because in many cases they were just mopping up. Like there wasn't sustained attacks that they had to deal with. So I'm a bit suspicious of the club trying to keep Mason and King on just because they played for the club. King came in under Mourinho. There'd been no real instance or for you to think that he wanted to be a coach. He was, Mr. Ambassador. He was at the games doing sponsorship stuff. That seemed Ledley's thing, not being on the pitch. Mason, to me, if he was at under 18s, that's fine. He can go back to under 18s. I like the guy, but yeah, like you, I want people that have experience of working with big name players, which is what we have. And yeah, I don't know if the ones that we have in house are capable. It is always a worry because we've seen with other managers that when they lose their number 2, then perhaps things go awry. Klopp is Mr. Charisma at Liverpool, but he does have a few coaches that he trusts who have been with him from day one. I don't know about the same about Guardiola, but I assume he's got a few, because Arteta came in as assistant and then left obviously quite quickly. So I think
David Platt's in there as well. I think isn't David Platt on the backroom staff there? So
maybe Guardiola is more of a hands-on manager than others, but yeah, it is about getting the balance, and only Fonseca will know who he clicks with. because there has to be, like, it's like anything in life. Sometimes you meet people and it's like you've known them all your life. And like Fonseca will know his weaknesses. He'll know what he needs. He'll know what the last guy did that probably made them a successful pair. So you have to trust Fonseca in this. That's where getting the club involved seems a bit odd. It would be lovely if we had the perfect assistant for him in Spurs, but if we don't, he needs to get the right one.
It's just the only concern I have with the Fonseca appointment is that right now is like he's proven he's decent. Like you said, he's the players coach, attacking football, all great, loads of boxes ticked. But just this summer, his backroom staff goes. I just found that a bit of a concern because you want to have that continuity when moving to another club. Fair enough, if the backroom staff leave after a year or two, that's a different story. But when he's moving to the Premier League, for me, it rang a little bit of an alarm bell, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
I have another comment which kind of goes along with that. It's from Chaz Brown. He thinks that Mourinho brought in King as part of a charm offensive. Yep. Yeah, I think he probably was trying to win us over.
Levy brought him in as a charm offensive,
Yeah, it's we had this discussion about pundits earlier in our little Patreon group. I don't care if they're male, female. It doesn't matter to me as long as they're good. Like the quality is there. To me, it's the same with coaches. I don't care, who you played for. Really, I don't care. Like if you're committed to the club and you're good at your job, I want you at Spurs. And that does go for anyone who's played for Arsenal or Chelsea. If they're good coaches and they're there to want to help us, why would we turn them down? I don't understand that level of tribalism. But it's going to, like, none of us know anything really about Paratici or about Fonseca. And so it is, I find it interesting that when Fonseca's name came up, probably both of us went, okay, we don't know too much. A lot of people have then looked into the appointment and suddenly thought, oh, maybe that is a good one for Spurs. So I'm hoping that the fan base has kind of decided to give him that chance that he needs and to give him more than 3 months to make his mark. Because let's face it, when Pochettino took over, we weren't great until Kane scored that free kick at Villa. And so like we may need to have some time for him to get his ideas across. But I mean, I don't think I'm the only one who thinks that Spurs do have some pretty good minerals to make a good side. And even if he does go with the 3-4-3 that he seems to prefer now, there are players in our squad that can do that. We may not be able to fit everyone into our best players into our best team, but I'm okay with that. It's the fact that Pochettino did that, and we had a very amazing first team where we knew pretty much every week who was going to play. I'm okay with it not being like that again. Like, I'd love to have a team that good, but I'd love to have a squad of 18 or 19 who are that good, and that people can come in and make a difference even if they're not playing every week.
Yeah, one thing on the manager as well. I just thought of when it's a name drop here. When I was with Sandro last week in Lisbon, this was like right at the start of the week. So when Conte was still on, it looked nailed on that Conte was coming, and so I was all happy and excited. It's like Conte, because Sandro's played in Italy. I think it was Udinese and another team that's bounces between Serie A and Serie B. I thought he'd be thrilled that we could get someone like Conte, and he was like, no. He said, look, these days players need to be able to connect with the manager. There has to be some level of friendly connection. If you stop playing for the manager, if you lose that dressing room, it's game over. And I think that's what happened with Jose. But I think he feared that would happen with Conte. And sorry to go back on an old point, but I just just wanted to name drop.
That's a good point. Like we talk about player power when it comes to contracts and leaving clubs. But yeah, given the fact that they are the talent, I mean, they're the ones that you employ to win you games. The player power may well be now in getting the right coach for the players. We saw at Chelsea 15 years ago with Terry and Lampard having lots of power to get rid of managers. Nothing's really changed. That may have been the biggest example, but yeah, like Spurs have a lot of talented players. We do, right? I don't think there's any doubt about that. But yeah, they will want to play for someone who they think understands them. They are more likely to run for someone who can instill this kind of team mentality that maybe isn't there. So it's like the game changes. It really does. What was successful 5 years ago may not be successful now. The formations change regularly. Where 3-4-3 seems to be very fashionable now. Maybe started with Conte and winning the league with Chelsea that year, but you see it all the time. For Germany to play 3-4-3 tonight, when they really haven't done it very often recently, shows that these coaches are being influenced by the club game. So yeah, we've just got to be a typical Spurs fan and pray, because like sometimes it'll work and sometimes it won't, and there doesn't seem to be much logic. But hopefully the coach will be a massive part of it.
Yeah. Any more comments you want to throw up before we call it a night?
Just this last one again from AJ, saying that Parachutist won't put up with any nonsense from agents and players. Yeah, like maybe there's something to that. Like we talk about, it's a fine balance between being a player's manager and then saying that's too much. We're not dealing with that. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Like Paratici, I think, does clearly have the better credentials to do that job. So even though I really know very little about him, before he hasn't even started officially for Spurs yet, so it's tough to decide. But he's clearly working his contact book, and he's not going to wait until the 1st of July to start. He's looking at options. He'll be watching the Euros. He'll be he's obviously got players in mind that he probably had in mind for Juventus that maybe won't make that step up, and we'll see Spurs as being a nice option. There might be some Juventus players that want out. You just never know, but it does feel nice to have someone that at least has some kind of track record in finding players that work out for their team.
Cool. Anything else? Any other comments there to pull up before we call it a night?
No, I think that's it for tonight. I think it's been a really good show, Brendan. You should come on more often.
I missed you, man. I missed you. I've been
you're busy working. I'm like, what is this? Brendan is usually in his backyard doing some barbecuing. Like, what's this working nonsense?
I'm here. It's good to be back in the UK. It's good to finally see some of the guys in the podcast here again after pretty much 2 years without me. It was September 2019 was the last time I was here, so it's great to be back. Cheeseheads and watchers, thank you for joining us. Do remember to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Everything always helps with those algorithms to keep us going and keep us happy. So thank you for that. And HG, thanks, mate.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully tomorrow night we'll be talking about the new manager. We'll be talking about the new fixtures, and maybe we'll be talking about another win for Italy. So the 3 games tomorrow, certainly both in Group A, one from Group B. It should be a good podcast. So join us again tomorrow night at the same time. That's 10 p.m. UK time, 11 p.m. in Europe, like me. And come on, you Spurs.
Up the Spurs.